What's good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking after for the future. I'm also going to break down why today was a pretty decent day for NIO in terms of its fundamentals. It's actually getting much stronger, and we had the new delivery report that came out. But at the same time, NIO is starting to cool off a bit, it's starting to consolidate, but it still has potential to continue pushing. Now, before I break anything down about NIO, before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is, any could be a free NIO share, a free Tesla share, or a mix of all of them. And the best part is, as well, if you do sign up right now, you're going to have the chance to win $60,000 in a new sweepstakes. So check it out before they run out, guys. Offer ends in just 2 weeks. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Looking at NIO, this thing is down about 5% for the day, and I want to break down the price action, what this is essentially telling us. Now, looking at this overall fractal pattern that we are seeing, this tends to be a little bit more bearish from this end. So that's the reason why I'm still a little bit cautious on NIO, and I do think that there is still some room for it to cool off a bit. However, where we move is also going to be dependent on some big factors. Now, what's going on with the markets, what's going on with NIO? The first thing I want to talk about is the new data that came out. NIO just reported their deliveries, and we have another 30% increase year over year. We have a new all-time high monthly delivery record for NIO, once again killing it. However, even though this is awesome to see, NIO still has a lot of work ahead of them. They delivered about 14,000 vehicles, in November. Now, as awesome as that is, you have to remember one more thing about this that's very important. If you look at the numbers very carefully, you're going to remember something. Firstly, NIO actually, they delivered about, let me actually zoom into this to make this easier to see. We delivered about 10,000 cars in October. Pretty good. And then November, we have about 14,000 right here, right? So that's 24,000 deliveries for Q4 so far. Now, remember what NIO CEO said. This company wants 43,000 to 48,000 deliveries. He said to expect that. So if that is the case, if we're at about 24,000 deliveries right now and we have to get at least 43,000, we have another 19,000 to go before the year ends. So NIO has to give us at least 19,000 for December. That's going to be a crazy month for them, an all-time high again. That could be a very bullish catalyst. And this alone was bullish news, and NIO already popped, especially yesterday, off this news. Perhaps maybe many big investors and insiders knew about this, and this is part of the reason why NIO was up so much yesterday. And I truly didn't know about this until right now. It was barely released to the public just a couple of hours ago. So like I said, guys, I mean, sometimes data comes out that you don't know about as quickly as other people out there. It looks like someone already knew about this, which is part of why NIO pumped as hard as it did yesterday. And we're going to have to wait and see what happens going a little bit earlier, all right? Going into the future too. But like I said before, great job, NIO. We broke another deliveries record for the month of November. And finally, for December, in the next 30 days, we want to see NIO deliver 19,000 cars if they want to keep up with their expectations. All right, I want to make that as clear as possible. But anyways, looking at this from a technical standpoint now, there is some big data that's coming out tomorrow. We actually saw PCE cool off a bit, which is a good sign. I mentioned that yesterday, but now what's big is the unemployment rate data is coming out for tomorrow for the USA. The forecast is about 3.7%. If this is higher than expected, this would be good news for the markets because the markets want some pain for the jobs sector. But if this is lower than expected, this could actually lead to some drops in NIO. So we have to be very, very careful here. Now, I also want to talk about this right here. NIO's volume is a little bit lower than before, so it's slowing down a bit. But on top of that, we saw this very big drop in the short volume percentage. I do expect a big bounce. And I do believe this could continue into tomorrow, meaning some more shorting, some more selling could actually take over the stock. I don't expect as much tomorrow. And we are seeing a big spike in the price pairs ratio. It could go a little higher depending on tomorrow. What else I'm seeing is Fridays tend to be green about 53% of the time, so there's is a decent chance that NIO could be somewhat green, but I don't expect it to be that crazy. The overall short interest is on a downtrend. It actually went up a little bit yesterday, so be very careful with this data. This is not the best of things to see. Uh, Besides that, there's not much else that's going on. There is some news about this right here, and other analysts are very bullish on NIO. As far as the technicals go, we have to talk about the market now because SPY is showing some really nice strength. All right. It actually hit 410, which is the key resistance level, exactly where I drew out this channel right here, this resistance channel right here, the supply zone. This is exactly where SPY got rejected off of. And then it came down. It's still holding it. So there is still strength here, guys. It's looking pretty good. It almost looks like it's starting to like flag around here. So I wouldn't be surprised if this thing sells off a little bit more tomorrow. That would be completely fine. I don't think it's going to be that extreme though. I'm hoping it's not that extreme. And as long as we hold above like 400 for the remainder of this week, we'd still be in a very good state for next week. And on top of that, you have to remember, I don't expect the market to crash down very hard. I think we're going to have a pretty flat state tomorrow, maybe a somewhat red one again, because the put to call ratio is relatively high. So I think market makers are incentivized to keep this market up. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to cool off a bit tomorrow. What do I mean by that? I mean that we are likely going to see a close in the 400s tomorrow. Pretty decent close, around maybe like 405 or so, maybe 406. It may be a little bit red, but we're not going to be crashing down. I'm pretty confident about that, all the way back down to like 400 to 397. I don't really see that happening tomorrow. I think we're more likely to hold these zones unless some kind of like news comes out. For Tesla, lots of strength in this thing. Looking at the technicals, big push almost to 200, big drop. After that, it just held and it was starting to consolidate. This thing is a monster. It really wants to run. And if it starts pushing up, this could actually help NIO because EVs tend to be correlated. This could start pushing up and it should break 200, if not tomorrow, hopefully sometime next week. Early next week, it could quite easily soar past 200 and actually go for like the 210 to 215 zone pretty fast. That's a bullish sign for NIO. Now, as for NIO, this thing's holding up pretty well. It didn't necessarily crash below $12. I mean, I think it did temporarily, but it managed to push up above that. Now, there's a warning I have for NIO. We have a big gap right here, and we know NIO likes to fill those gaps. So let me go over the bearish and bullish possibilities. If NIO tomorrow starts coming down and this downtrend starts to perpetuate, we got to see this thing hold 11.6 around there. If it breaks below that, make sure to watch 11.32. It has to hold this level because if it breaks below this and starts coming down, if it breaks below 11.3, this thing has a lot of room to come down. Am I saying it's going to do that? No, but it's just a warning I have for everyone. If you look at the way NIO moves, it has a tendency of like pushing up, expecting a downtrend, next leg up, downtrend, next leg up, downtrend. Perhaps we have another leg up. It's going to depend on the market, though. It is still possible. For tomorrow, what I'm thinking is going to happen is, as you guys know, NIO has a tendency of getting lots of volume a little bit later into the day. So like right here, it takes a little bit of time for NIO to see the peak volume, the peak winning percentage. It tends to push up after like the first hour. It cools off for an hour or two. Then it starts to push off near the ending of the day. So that's what tends to happen to NIO. I'm thinking that tomorrow into open, NIO is going to have a slow open, then it's going to push green to about $12.75 or so, maybe even hit 13 if we're that bullish. But I do believe we're going to hit like 12.7, maybe go for this gap fill, get a big rejection, and it's going to start coming down. And we may end up breaking below $12 again, coming all the way back down to like 11.9. We're going to try to hold $12. And I expect just boring sideways action for the remainder of the day. But as the day comes to an end, if the market sells off and there's no other like major news catalyst to really help this thing hold up, NIO will likely start to come down a little bit more, and we could see this thing end up testing the high 11s. So be very careful right around this zone. Now, we'd be completely fine if we're above like 11.66. If this thing breaks 11.66, I'd be very cautious, guys, because it could come all the way back down to 11.3. If it breaks that, like I said before, big gap down here, this is dangerous. Be very careful. Because of Tesla and how it's performing, I think it's a little bit less likely for NIO to come crashing down that hard relatively soon. And I'm hoping NIO holds these levels and it has another leg to the upside relatively soon. But until then, like I said, I expect another pop tomorrow into open and a bit of a bleed off as the day goes on. Fridays tend to not be as strong, so be very careful with NIO and other stocks out there. However, for next week, if we have a decent close, we do have potential to hold and see another continuation of the bullish move. We just need more time on this thing. It needs more time, so give it the time it needs. Anyways, that's what I have for this video. Please have a great rest of the day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, because the long-term future is still incredibly bright, and peace out.